Hello, and welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. What the fuck? I did it! I absolutely did do it. I mess up that intro every time, dear listeners, and you never know because we have an editor that edits out all the attempts. My name is Gita, and that's who I am, and I'm joined by professional comic books expert Alex Jaffe.
Gita, you give yourself way too little credit. You fuck it up about 1/3 of the time. I think
Thank you!
if we made some kind of supercut of all the unedited versions of this show, you would find that you pull this off more often than not.
Well, that's good to know, because I always hear myself calling it a podcast you've never heard of, which is not a way you should be introducing your own show. I don't think so.
Yeah, we're trying to make it a podcast you've heard of.
I hope you've heard of it if you're listening now.
Yeah. How'd you get here?
We're also joined by the host of one deranged man's journey through something he hates so much it's given him mental illness. It is Will Weldon, the host of I Hate Bill Maher. Guess what that podcast's about?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good
Hi.
to. Yeah, it's great. I can't recommend enough. If there's like something you really hate, you should start a media project that results in people constantly emailing, texting, DMing you anything ever that has to do with the thing you hate. It's like a cool way to live your life.
Yeah, just like if you need to elevate your heart rate, just start a podcast about something you fucking despise and then rewatch the entirety of Real Time with Bill Maher, which, I mean, now feels like a useful political project, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so different from you guys and the works of Dan DiDio, though, right?
Yeah.
I believe you have some feelings about Dan DiDio.
We could rename this podcast I Hate Dan DiDio, but it's not quite the same level of passion. Once per episode on I Hate Bill Maher, you will just interrupt your own guest and go into a solid minute-long rant about something Bill Maher said. Although, Jaffe, have we done that? Where we've just been like, and then Dan DiDio was like for about a solid minute or so.
I don't. Maybe you'd have to go back to check the tapes. The thing about 52 is the entire thing is kind of a Rube Goldbergian device of keeping Dan DiDio out of the room from week to week, which is how it's able to be the success it is.
Yeah. Would we call him the Bill Maher of comic books?
The Bill Maher of comic?
Who
no,
is the
I don't
Bill
think
Maher
so.
of comic books? There's a
Chuck
lot of...
Dixon, maybe? That's a little extreme. I will say, in my mind, I tend to conflate Bill Maher with Dennis Miller. Is that a problem anyone else has?
They're good friends, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dennis Miller is fully sundowning now.
Yeah.
Dennis Miller is completely out of it at this point, and Bill Maher is at least like a little more like sort of vibrant and vital. Dennis Miller is fully like just completely like so dull. He's like dull. There's no life in him when he does shows on the podcast he had. There's like nothing there.
I know.
Wow.
The Bill Maher of comics is Rob Liefeld.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true.
Guy who's like goes around, I'm the biggest deal in comics. I changed the whole game. People are very annoyed by this guy. People who are outside of the field assume you're a fan of his.
The same thing is like they have this, both have this intense tendency. They're eating out to lunch on something they did, the one thing they did that was good like 30 to 40 years ago. That's founding Image Comics and Politically Incorrect getting canceled for the one politically correct, like the one political stand that he took that, not even for the right reasons, that Bill Maher took that was correct.
Also kind of the I consider myself a liberal, but the left is going too far sort of deal.
Oh my God.
I'm Alex. I'm not sure how old you are. I lived through life.
Beyond time.
I lived through Liefeld. I just turned 40 3 days ago.
Oh, mazel tov.
And thank you. And I have a sneaky suspicion you're both younger than me, which is like a thing. like I was just if when LeBron James retires, I think I die. Like because he's the only guy older than me left in the NBA, which is brutal to suffer through. But like Rob Liefeld, it's so funny. It's like so Bill Maher had like one good opinion on his show, which was about opinions. And the good thing Rob Liefeld did wasn't even about what he's supposed to do. Like it's not like he had one good run on a book. It was literally being one of 4 guys who founded another comics label, and he left after like a year and a half.
His stand was like, I would like to be making more money, please. And it just turns out that everyone is so broke in comics that seems such like a heroic
go off,
stand.
King. Yeah,
exactly. No, you're right in that like there isn't a Rob Liefeld good period, right?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, disgusting, over-designed suits and women who have very bendy spines. Like that's the entire run. And then one day he sat down and said, I would like more money. And everyone applauded.
Will, what's your experience with DC Comics? And is this your first time going through 52?
So I told Gita I had read 52. As I was reading this issue, I was like, oh, I never finished 52. What the hell is going on? I was essentially a like Marvel nationalist when I was a child. Like literally would have fought some sort of like comic book in a comic book race war if it had come to that against.
Oh,
like,
we would have had our bayonets in each other.
Oh yeah, yes. It would have been brother versus brother over here.
Yeah. And it's almost entirely because my brother's like 10 years older than me and he loved Cosmic Marvel. So that was like, I read all of that stuff, and DC, I don't even know what, like, I didn't know DC. I don't know what my problem would have been with DC. It just was because like, well, my brother reads, I cannot stress this enough, the worst Avengers comics of all time. When the lineup was like Black Knight, Circe, Crystal from the Eternals, and they were in a love triangle. And then the Black Knight's clone from the future also got it. Dude,
I'm so sorry. Whenever there's a clone from the future in the mix, you know that writer has run out of ideas. Like that's just.
Also, let me tell you about the new 52 Superboy run sometime.
Oh boy! It's just a disease that comic book writers have, right? They're like, we'll have a clone, but he's also from the future.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, people have done that before, and it doesn't make a clone more interesting.
Yeah, what's more dramatic than man versus himself? What if we literalized that? And it's like, oh my God, please no. But I got really into, I think I just like one time Googled like when I was like 18 or 19 and started to read comics again, I just Googled like 20 best Batman stories and just like bought some of those.
I've written some of those articles.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I think the one I read was the IGN one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, Jaffe has definitely helped you as his role as a professional comic books expert at this point. Yeah. But if you Google search 20 best Batman stories, you will end up at 52. That is a pathway directly to 52. Because
even though Batman's not really in this comic.
Batman's not really in this one, but it's got good stuff with the rest of the Bat people, which is like if you read a Batman book, that's what you realize is that the Batman is only as good as the supporting cast, essentially. You got to have
some exceptions, but yeah.
Infinite Crisis, it was like it was around the same time as Civil War, right?
Correct. Civil War was happening at the same time as Infinite Crisis in 52.
So I don't know if it's just a thing. Whereas the kids might say the comic crossover mega events just don't hit like they used to.
They don't.
Or if it's just, I feel like those two in my brain were the last two like enormous mega crossover events that like got a lot of attention and did a lot. Because I remember Infinite Crisis, I resented how successful it was.
Yeah,
because I still had like Marvel fanboy problems.
And I used to talk shit about Civil War on like LiveJournal comic groups like every single day because I was like, fuck this. Joss Whedon's a stupid guy. True. But like,
I would say that Blackest Night a couple years after this was like a major mega event that turned a lot of heads.
Right.
That was Avengers versus X-Men. Correct. On the Marvel side, AVX was a really, really big deal.
But it's like the swan song, right? Because right after this, these we are watching like cultural artifacts, right?
Mhm.
This is Marvel before they were bought by Disney, and also DC before they also just went all in on the idea of chasing exactly what Marvel was doing with the movies. So these are actually comic events written not to be cannibalized, not with the intention of being cannibalized by some greater Hollywood project.
Yeah,
so
it's weird being this age and like watching Marvel. Like at the end of Avengers, when Thanos turns up, I was like, "Come on, there is no way they are going to do this incredibly stupid story." Like, so like my favorite storyline as a child that I thought was so cool, and I just remember being like walking out of the theater and being like, "Guys, you don't understand. He does it because he wants to fuck death."
Right.
Like that's the impetus for this entire event, is that big purple man from one of the moons of Saturn wants to marry the physical manifestation of death. And everybody's like, no, come on, that's not what it was. And I was like, okay, like, don't believe me, but that's what it is. And just watching all that stuff now ending up in like TVs and movies, it's incredibly weird to have been around for it as it happened.
I'm really curious about what the James Gunn stuff is going to be like, because it's clear that he's read this specific comic book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely read this one, and he's definitely like Booster fucking Gold. Like, he's a Booster fan like the rest of us, and this is one of Booster's best stories. So there's 100% chance that little tiny pieces in the same way of 52 are going to end up in there. But the problem with MCU is that instead of having Thanos fuck death, they made it like a more reasonable explanation. Like,
is it more reasonable?
Well, yeah,
though?
that makes no like the entire idea of like, well, we'll just kill half of all people and all living things, and surely those living things will not just continue to do the same patterns that brought us to this situation in the first place. Like, people, it'll just get to the exact same point at a certain point, and it'll be in the same, like, it falls apart with even the tiniest bit of analysis, his entire motivation for doing this.
Just having him be like really horny is a great like villain motivation also, because it's just like, what you are like, there's no rhyme or reason here. You are just obsessed with death. And like, you could have gotten a great casting for death also. Yeah. It would have been a lot more fun. And
I mean, didn't they end up finally doing death in one of the recent Marvel shows? And like, it turned out Aubrey Plaza was Lady Death all along.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe I should finish that fucking show. It's
I was so angry when I was like, hold on. It's like when Adam Warlock showed up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And it's like, what, the whole point of this guy is dead. Like, this guy's like arch nemesis is gone. Why bring him in now?
How do you do an Adam Warlock story without Thanos? I am straining so hard to keep up with this because I am so not a Marvel guy.
Sorry. I came onto your DC. I colonized your DC
I know that Thanos gets cucked by Deadpool. That is the extent of my Marvel knowledge.
Yeah. No, we have established, though, I want to hear your take on this as a Marvel guy. X-Men comics are Marvel comics for people who like DC comics.
That's it. I don't know. Because to me, DC comics were always like sort of, I don't know, almost like stuffier or more traditional.
Yeah.
And I was already being raised Catholic, so I like didn't need to return to tradition any more than I already was.
True.
Yeah, like Marvel, it seemed like, I mean, it's like the old cliche of like, Spider-Man was like a nerd, so kids related to it. Whereas Superman was Superman, and who can relate to that? But like, I certainly wasn't relating to Spider-Man in the 90s, where he had a supermodel wife, and that stuff was still escaping me.
Right.
But I don't know, X-Men has always felt like kind of its own. Sometimes it feels integrated into the greater comic universe, and other times when you read X-Men, it's like this just sort of feels like its entire whole other. It feels like a separate comic book universe.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of what I mean in that, like, you don't have to interact with the Avengers at all if you read an X-Men comic book. You never will.
I think when people compare X-Men to DC, I think what they're thinking of is like Karen Berger era DC, like when those like late 80s and early to mid 90s when like Vertigo was starting to sprout up, and
when things got really freaky deaky,
things got really freaky deaky when we when we imported all of the greatest British writers and made them do Swamp Thing for us.
Eventually all of those writers would do a run on X-Men in some capacity.
Exactly.
Basically, because X-Men, because it's like a weird like subculture of humanity, you don't have to really care about the broader politics of the Marvel universe at all. Like for a long time, X-Men, they had their own like neighborhood in New York City that was like the X-Men borough. And like that's like, if you were like, I really need money because I'm for living here from the UK on a visa, I could fucking write an X-Men book. Yeah, sure, totally. I know about punk rap subcultures and stuff like that. There you go.
All right. I would like to congratulate us personally because this episode marks the 75% of the mark of 52, the series. We have done 3/4 of this thing. And never thought we would make it this far. And here we are, feeling like Keith Giffen. How are we still alive?
I don't know. I just like to talk about comic books, and I would be doing this even if you weren't here.
Yeah, we would be doing this into empty rooms, respectively. It's just luck that we found each other.
I think once per year, I do trap someone at like a party or a bar and just like, have you ever heard of this comic called 52? It was crazy.
Yeah. It's someone asked me on Blue Sky literally yesterday that if like I had to stand up and talk about a comic book for 24 hours, Cory Booker style, what would it be? And it's like, I'm sure I've done twice that already on this podcast alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would just talk about Grant Morrison and the nature of ritual magic and Alan Moore and why Morrison is completely wrong that they are as good as Alan Moore because nobody is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I would say my thing with DC. It's like I know the hits and I know like the big sort of like iconic runs on things, but like, I don't Karen Berger. I don't know. I was. Well, no. Listen, hey, don't please. I'm coming on your very specific podcast. Please don't say any fairly esoteric facts while I'm here. I think I know. I should understand what I'm in for.
Yeah.
But like, I like all the British guys. I read all the British guys, their runs, and like, I loved Vertigo. But folding Vertigo into the main, that's like one of those things. I think about that with when HBO, they combined HBO with Discovery.
Yeah.
When I'm flipping through Max and I see like, when it's like 1,000-pound sisters is one of the things being offered to me. And I was like, that goes on a different app. Those are not meant to be with the HBO.
Don't sully my eyes with this. I'm here for The Sopranos. Yeah. No, when they, the worst thing that DC did to fuck over Alan Moore specifically, other than all of the other things that Jaffe is really well aware of that they did to fuck over Alan Moore specifically, it was putting Promethea into 2 issues of the Justice League of America. Like, really just middle fingers in the air. We hate you, dog. Like, that kind of shit's crazy.
Why do that? I gotta, like, I don't know what Steve Orlando was cooking over there.
I don't know. Like, I appreciate in the disgraced comic book writer Neil Gaiman's work, I appreciate that he, at least when that gets folded in, he did deliberately like put in places where they intersect more neatly into like there's an implication that Sandman also exists within this and that there's a new era of Sandman. So please write Daniel because I'm not going to. But with Alan Moore, he was literally trying to escape from DC for so long. And they're just like, fuck you, dog, like chasing after him, like flipping him off.
God, it's a tragedy.
Sorry if you've talked about this before. I was just going to ask, how do you guys, because as I kind of stopped reading comic books fairly regularly, and like my wife she's more of a comic books fan still than I am, but like I stopped reading right when everybody was like really turning on Jeff Johns and like really wanting to like throw Jeff Johns off of like a bridge or a waterfall or something. Yeah. How do you guys feel about Jeff Johns as sort of like when he was kind of the driving creative force of the broader DC existence?
Jeff Johns is a man who writes a lot of comics. Jeff Johns has written more comics than I think even Chuck Dixon at this point. Basically anyone short of Robert Kanigher, maybe Gardner Fox, depending on how you measure it. He's a guy who is like, he's going to have some hits. He's going to have some misses. But the thing about being a guy in comics is that on time is always better than good. Jeff Johns was like, he's earned a reputation. He earned a reputation in the later years of his career for massive delays on stuff. But that was when he was also trying to balance a film and television career on top of that. When he was the comics guy, you could just like hand him these crusty heroes from the Justice Society of America that nobody cared about and turned it into a hit.
Yeah. Blackest Night is his big like self-authored creation that I love. But then there's also Flashpoint that I hate. And I think that the critical acclaim he got for sort of recycling and reimagining and creating like characters that are related to other characters that make them all richer and stuff. I'm thinking like Miss Martian and Kay Kane, like this kind of stuff. You get high on your own supply after a little bit. And then you start, this is the downfall of many a great comic book writer, you start thinking that you are as good as the original master. It's like you start thinking that you should go back in time and rewrite history for the DC universe. And then also write a response to Watchmen, something that no one should ever do. Just don't do it. Like, why would you remind me of one of the best things that's ever been written, comic book or not, when I'm reading your comic book? I don't want to know. It's
okay to write something that's in thematic conversation with a work that you respect, like Kieran Gillen did with his Peter Cannon Thunderbolt series.
Which I finally read, and it's really great.
I love it. But like to be like, and then Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan showed up, and they fought with Superman. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Now I remember what Flashpoint was now. What Flashpoint was
Doomsday Clock. Flashpoint was the Barry Allen breaks the timeline event, which honestly is not terrible. What it was used for, that big like New 52 timeline reboot, I think that's the issue most people have with it. And it wasn't originally written with that in mind. It was just that reboot was hung on the end of that event.
It is the beginning of multiverse disease for like comics and movies. So sorry.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, it was also a weekly Flashpoint?
No,
it was like a 5-issue event and it had a bunch of tie-ins. And this happened in late 2011 because as we learned in our Brian Clevenger episode, some executives at Warner Brothers burst down Dan DiDio's door and said, I don't know why we're spending all this money on these IPs. You got to figure out a way to turn it around or we're shutting down the whole comics division. And they're like, well, we got to do a reboot in 2 months. And that's what they hung on to the end of Flashpoint. And that was the New 52.
Cool.
Right? I remember growing up and thinking I really wanted to be a movie director. I like wanted to make like big tentpole movies, like action movies and stuff like that. And I know exactly the moment when I was like, I don't think I can handle that world. It sounds like absolutely insane. I met someone who was working on sets, a Black woman who was working on sets in Hollywood in high school because the arts high school I went to really wanted to mentor me and found an alumni that had ended up working in Hollywood. And she told me that she was like the only Black woman on set most of the time. And I just sat down and I was like, I literally don't think I can handle being the only one. Just like the only and the first. No, thank you. I'm going to fucking blog about video games or whatever. I didn't think that at 16. But, it is an insane world where you have to both make a good art product and also satisfy the whims of people that don't know fucking anything, but holds the keys to your destiny.
Yeah, it's not even just like, hey, you got to make good comic books. It's like, hey, you have to make good comic books that also can translate into other completely different industries.
Yeah,
totally different from. It's such a different medium that it like the animated adaptation of The Killing Joke. It's just like, oh my god, this is bad. This is like,
I cannot talk about that.
We're gonna get so mad if we keep talking about it because it's so fucking upsetting. Like,
I've got some friends I need to bring onto this podcast at some point who have some stories about Brian Azzarello's adaptation of that story.
It feels unfinished. Like it's because it's like, well, I don't know. It doesn't feel like Alan Moore. I'm starting to think maybe he didn't like create these I'm starting to think he didn't tell these stories with the intention for them to one day be adapted into film and television.
Yeah.
I mean, in Alan Moore's like masterclass, he touched on Killing Joke for just a minute, and he's like, "You want to know the last time I thought about the Killing Joke? The minute I submitted the script to DC. I have not thought about that book ever again since."
It's just the very image of integrity. That's like the kind of person I would like to be in the world of entertainment, just the entertainment industry in general. It's just sort of like, I write good shit and I'm not going to mythologize it within myself because I know to you it's meaningless. So to me, it also must be meaningless.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I mean, real artists talk about money all of the time. That is like an important thing to realize.
Yeah.
Getting into it's like no one wants to hear about your art. They just want to bitch with you about how underpaid you are for every single thing that you do.
Absolutely. Like it sounds like you've been at a media party in a bar in Brooklyn. God.
Subscribe to aftermath.site for more great products from yours truly.
Yes.
Gita as well.
We should actually talk about the comic book that we were going to talk about.
Yeah. We can start by talking talent. We got some new faces on this one. We got pencils by Andy Smith, who did a bunch of how to draw comics guides, like how to draw superheroes, how to draw manga, that kind of stuff you would find in a bookstore. He's the guy who does that stuff. Inks by Ray Snyder, who previously worked on Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman run. I just had a great conversation with Greg Rucka on the show Attach Your Resume with Eric Silver. I substitute hosted for an episode. So if you want to hear a follow-up conversation to our bonus episode with that we did with Greg, that's where you could hear that. We got a really cool cover this week. I love this cover.
Lex Luthor in this book is so good. Some great Lex writing. And this is spiritually a portrait of Elon Musk.
Yes. This is what's going through his head at any given moment.
Every single day. This is what Elon Musk's, like, what his aura really projects to the world. Is he's Lex Luthor doing the Superman the movie poster image. Like, it's big brain moves. It's so good.
The best part is he's not even the most evil man on this cover. We've got this blurb saying that we've got the origin of Mr. Terrific with Ethan Van Sciver.
Oh my God. A real world villain's in the mix.
Yes. This has happened occasionally in 52. I'd like to point out when it does that the Chiron at the bottom, which gives you an overview of different stories happening this week. One of the blurbs is Montoya fights a dragon, which is something that never happens at all in this issue.
What the hell was that about?
Something got shuffled around. I assume based on the capitalization that it was supposed to be a scene about Renee Montoya and Richard Dragon, who was Vic Sage's mentor, who we saw previously in the series. But apparently it got cut for time or space or whatever. Still a great storyline, just not part of this issue. J.G. Jones once again knocking it out of the park with this cover. Great stuff. And that takes us to Metropolis on day one. I
really like how all of this stuff that we're about to read plays out. I think the pacing on this is really great. Especially there's a reveal that we, the audience, definitely already figured out later on. At the incredible Lex stuff, really nice to see as we are about to Natasha like be heroic and take charge and take a risk. Yeah. And then it's just, nice thing about getting a comic book in your hands weekly is there's just a little delicious morsel of entertainment and joy in your life. This is what has been nice about keeping up with the Shonen Jump mangas weekly is I get to sit down and be like, oh, it's Chainsaw Man Day. Mm-hmm. And then I get to read Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man never makes me feel as good as this comic book does. But it is just, this is to me, one of the many just perfect little issues of a comic book. I love this.
Specifically this Natasha and Lex story.
Yes.
Issues 39 and 40 of 52 are kind of the two-part finale of that storyline. Between this issue and the next issue, we're going to see a denouement for what many people overlook when they're talking about the 52 storylines. Everybody talks about Booster and Renee Montoya and Black Adam, but this has been a big part of the series, and these two issues are where they really get the focus that like justifies them for being here.
Now let's not do Jake erasure here, okay?
Yeah.
Let's
Sorry.
give
Big man
Let's talk about
Jake.
Jake. Yeah.
Yeah.
let's give one of the least interesting as I'm
Sky
reading
Man.
it. I have no idea what's going on, and I'm like, oh, good. Most of the issue involves Nat and Jake.
Yeah. Jake is Natasha's boyfriend on Infinity Inc., the new Sky Man on Lex Luthor's team, who has there's absolutely nothing suspicious about him. He's totally there's the fact that he keeps telling Natasha that she can trust him every single time they share a scene together doesn't raise any flags whatsoever.
Hello, it's me, world's most normal man.
Yeah.
Basically.
I do like them Scooby-Dooing about trying to follow this scientist to figure out what Luthor is up to.
This controversy, so they find out what this scientist is up to. The scientist is blowing up his own lab with himself in it.
Yeah.
And this is also what I imagine what it's like to work at Tesla or SpaceX. You know? Like, desperately trying to make sure Elon Musk does not get his hands on your research so he can own it. Like that, this is prophetic in many ways. I feel like it's either they like every evil CEO billionaire it takes the same mold, or Elon Musk was literally reading Lex Luthor comics and being like, I should be more like that.
Yeah.
And sorry, Natasha, just real quick, she just steals niece.
Yes.
Okay.
I always think it's daughter, but it's niece.
It's like illegal for it to be a son or daughter. It is always a niece or nephew.
Always a niece,
comic books
because he can't be a deadbeat. Right? So he can't have his daughter appear fully adult and have no relationship to him. So it's got to be niece. Yeah.
She has to have come into his life later and have him like adjust to this. Otherwise, where was she? You know, it makes sense. In Superman and Lois, the TV show, they change it so that they rename her Natalie, and she's his daughter the whole time.
Okay. Superman and Lois is a really great show, by the way, if you haven't seen it. It is exactly the tone of what I would want a show about Lois Lane having to move to a small town to be a journalist anymore. To be like, it is. She gets her car exploded in an episode. It's great. I really do like it a lot.
Season 2 is hard to get through, but so is season 2 of Friday Night Lights. That doesn't make it a bad show.
I don't know if you have this opinion, Jaffe, but I certainly do. We are so spoiled. This television takes so long to come out. People get so upset if a season of something is bad. And it's like, I watched Buffy season 4. I watched every fucking episode of that dog shit season of television. And there were so many more episodes of that. It'll be okay. Just let writers figure some shit out. Just let them do it.
I can't follow you there because season 4 is when I dropped Buffy. So I didn't make it through that desert.
They just don't know what to do when she's in college. You know, I get it.
People just don't appreciate, they have no idea what it was like to be so excited for a new episode of Dragon Ball Z. And then it is literally them standing there screaming at each other while a narrator recaps what's already happened. Because Akira Toriyama was behind on the manga.
Yeah, just stretching out every fight into 15 or so episodes. Yeah. I remember watching the Boo fight with my older brother and feeling like I was like actually losing my mind. I was like, when are they gonna punch him?
Yeah.
Brother, please. I'm so upset at this pink motherfucker. Like,
I had a birthday with some friends like 8 or 9 years ago where we decided like what we're going to do is we're going to watch the entire Goku versus Frieza fight on Namek. And we're like, wow, this is a lot longer than I remembered. Huh?
And your mind condenses it really easily because there's so much shit where nothing is happening. And they're all just talking about how fucked they are.
That lab blew up. They couldn't find whatever secrets were in it went up in smoke with them. Fortunately, Natasha and her bland boyfriend survive. But whatever this man was trying to hide is presumably lost.
The boyfriend looks exactly like all of the guys who would be hired to play the love interest, the like in a Katherine Heigl movie, the like handsome doctor she thinks she wants to date. James Marsden. That Jake, I saw Jake and I was like, oh my God, this is just one of these guys where it's like you know, they played a handsome original boyfriend in 2 movies, and now they're, you know, really into crypto and have been to jail multiple times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have a podcast, and you've never seen a full episode of the podcast, but clips of it for some reason always end up in your TikTok feed. Yeah, absolutely. It's a compelling illustration of that guy, because I also felt the same way. Like, he is blandly handsome, but not handsome enough that you'll be upset when this actor dies.
This guy is Mufos with Zachary Levi.
Yes. Yeah, he's promoting Magic Mind with Pete Holmes as we speak right now.
Jesus.
He's got an appearance on Club Brandon.
Next, we have a scene I don't expect anyone reading this really got.
Can you explain to me also, because I'm just assuming Will needs the explanation, what was going on with Atlantis and Aquaman at this period of time in DC history?
What we have here is what was then the latest iteration of DC's Aquaman problem, i.e., people treat Aquaman as a joke. They don't take him seriously. We got to do something about that. We have this hot Aquaman IP everybody knows, but we don't want it to be a punchline. We need him to be cool. So their idea around this time was to have Aquaman kind of mysteriously disappear and have him replaced by a younger, sexier Aquaman. And that was Kurt Busiek's Aquaman Sword of Atlantis, which was kind of like a Conan-y take on Aquaman, which interesting on paper. Kurt Busiek's a great writer, but it got a little too esoteric. And there was this whole mystery of what happened to the original Aquaman. And basically, without providing any answers, this Mark Waid cutaway to Atlantis kind of addresses the fact that what Aquaman's deal is right now is kind of a mystery itself. And as Ralph Dibny and the Helmet of Fate are going through the different like mystical realms of DC Comics, they visit the ruins of Atlantis, which was destroyed in the run-up to Infinite Crisis by the Spectre. And we check in on a scene that is intentionally meant to give us more questions than answers. Like, who is this amnesiac who might be Aquaman but might not? What are these references to, like, this sea beast that Aquaman has ostensibly become?
Oh, okay. You can't go. No one's ever survived taking a link from the chain, because then they have to fight the sea beast, and then it shows the sea beast, and I'm like, oh baby, I love the sea beast. And then he's like, I'll just put my wedding ring where the link was, and then I'll be on my merry way. And it's like, no, like
a real letdown.
I want the beast, man.
Yeah.
Give me the beast.
What we did is we walked up to the fireworks factory and then like picked up a package at the door and turned around.
And like the sea beast, the look on its face, there's just something about it where it's like, this is no beast. This is an intelligent animal who is dejected at its lot in life, but also understands, well, I'm meant to fight a thing that takes a link from my chain, so I'll do that. And then no more beast. I found, to me, the beast was by far the most compelling piece of art in this entire book.
Oh yeah,
I would agree. Yes, this one panel of the ancient sea beast, who we never see again, is I want that story that was clearly
someone
cut
is
for time.
writing a 52 book about the sea beast as we speak. Like, that is their big white whale of a DC thing they'd love to expand. It's like the magic of comics is that tomorrow you could like pitch a book that's like, okay, I have the entire history of this sea beast totally mapped out, and I can make it like a really good like Aquaman book. I totally will. It just has to involve this one panel of a sea beast. I have to say, I love the crown. It is very Inhumans, Marvel Inhumans, but it's like it does imply like knowledge. Animals don't wear clothes. Why does the sea beast have a crown on?
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What Ralph is here for is to get a chain from this sea beast for some kind of ritual. He exchanges his wicker wedding ring for it that he got from that resurrection plot in the first quarter of 52. I guess representing the things that you have to give away from yourself as you pursue your goals. It's a very it's Mark Waid trying to do some kind of like hero's quest symbolism.
It's also the phenomenon, like everyone's afraid that Ralph Dibny opened up his quest with a gun in his mouth, and everyone's afraid he's going to end it.
I was like, maybe I'll read a few issues to kind of catch up. And when I got to that part, I was like, no, I'm going to stay cold now.
It's like, when I read it as a teenager.
So close. It's
I know.
like this. It's not like from a distance.
No.
So close with like tears rolling down his face.
Like,
I was like, oh my God.
His nostrils, right? And it's like he's gonna blow his brains out. No, it's this entire storyline really is suicide chicken in a big way. And one of the things they keep bringing up is that he's getting rid of his worldly possessions, which is one of those warning signs for people who may become suicidal. They they suddenly seem more relieved, but they start giving a lot of things
that's
away.
A good point.
Yeah. And like, that's what my first go around, what I definitely interpreted this image as. It's like, if you give up the wedding ring, then he's definitely feels like he is no longer tethered to humanity in any way, because he's been suicidal this whole time.
I want to point out a little bit on this next page where another artifact of the fact that they're clearly shuffling these stories around to see what fits. We keep getting these week X, day Y headers anytime we go to a new scene. And we have 2 different day 6s followed by a day 5 in this issue, which kind of clearly demonstrates that there was some last minute shuffling going on.
Boy. Well, comic books, baby. It's a miracle they come
tough.
out ever. Yeah.
They had to put one of these out a week, every week for a year.
If I'd been given this job, I would have failed intentionally to make sure no other writer was put under this kind of strain. Like the worst thing.
That's kind of what happened in Countdown, buddy.
Someone did do that. You are correct. That it took like 5 geniuses in order to get this to actually work. It almost didn't work. And then the next person that had to do it was like, fuck all of you.
Nope, not again, never again.
No one will ever try this ever again. Yes.
It's so BioWare with Dragon Age, the third one, where it's like, no, but why would you keep tempting fate like this? And they're like, no, fate is to be tempted now.
God, so fucking real. Lord, I read this issue is interesting because you pointed that out, but in reading it, I did not actually notice that the days were all mixed around. There is like, they have worked with the convention of every single thing that happens in the issue happens sequentially during the week for so long that I just don't fucking question it. But you're right in that if the story that bookends this narrative actually takes place, like, if it's actually like one scene broken up, then that has to be day 5 on either end of the comic book, right? Because you're returning to the Natasha or the Nat and Jake storyline at the end, and we just get, I guess, our flashing back to the past by the end there. It doesn't feel weird, but I guess like in order for it to happen on day 6, they'd have to have camped out overnight in like the Lex Luthor Tower.
Yeah. What I am guessing happened is, as I said, 39 and 40 are kind of the end of this Steel story. I think what's happening here is we're seeing them gather up the last pieces they need to tell of that specific thing so that the last quarter of this book could be, okay, let's really dial down on what's going on with Booster and Black Adam and like the main stories, because we're all coming to a head here.
Yeah.
Our first day 6 takes us to Oolong Island, the most fun spot in this whole year of comics.
It really is just like, even out of context, all of the mad scientists hanging out with each other is fun.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that.
I feel like this could have been a DC live action sitcom in the vein of like, do you remember Powerless? That show they tried to do?
No. Oh, wait. Yes, I do. I remember the bus ad for Powerless, and it's just like a doctor and like a firefighter or something in the getting like their coffee splashed on them because
it's like about an insurance company in the DC universe, or and you know, it's made by the people who would go on to make the Harley Quinn show. I've heard some stories about the troubled production of it, about how it was originally a lot more irreverent than it was made to be. By the people who were like a little too stodgy about how you use their properties. But yeah, if you want to do like a live action sitcom set in the DC universe, I think a bunch of mad scientists making shit on an island together is pretty good, is a pretty solid premise.
And you could do it like The Office style and have it be like a fake docudrama that way, because it's like, you know, a mad scientist has trapped them all there, and he wants to document the process for when his evil invention is finally unveiled. Oh, I can already imagine the cast of like actors that could definitely do this and need the money. You know,
Who would you cast to play Dr. Savannah?
oh my God, who's bald?
They don't have to be bald. They can shave their head.
That's fair. Hair does grow. Oh man, a Dr. Savannah with the big glasses. I really just want to see a Mike Myers return really bad. So I would want him just to be involved in some way.
Just to do Dr. Evil again?
Just like, even if he was just riffing on it a little bit, if he did the pinky thing like 1 or 2 times, that would be really, really fun for me. I'm enjoying how much Mike Myers hates Elon Musk. I'm sorry to keep bringing him up, but I've been thinking about him a lot for, I think reasons should be obvious if you live in America. But yeah, the Mike Myers hatred of this specific kind of person, like the more, like, it just would work incredibly fucking well. He's already kind of been doing that in so many of his roles.
This just came to me. Follow me here.
Okay.
As Dr. Savannah, starring in our sci-fi Oolong Island sitcom, Michael Emerson.
Michael Emerson.
You shave his head. You break out that freaky Ben Linus energy from Lost.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It would be great. It would be really great. He's got an unsettling aura.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that could be really work. I'm afraid of what he would look like without hair.
I'm not. I'm ready to see it.
All right. I don't know if either of you watched the streamer Ludwig, but for charity, he did a marathon stream, and one of the things he had to do was like for the charity stream was shave his head. And it's the first time I've seen somebody that really shouldn't shave their head do it. And it's like his head is lumpy. It really didn't look good at all. And his chat made fun of him for it. They're still making fun of him for it. It's really, really funny. They keep posting screenshots of him with his big shaved head, like slightly enlarged, like just enough that you don't notice right away that they've enlarged his head. It's great. It's really good.
In this story, we see that Will Magnus's hoarding of different metal materials throughout this plot has obviously come to roost as him trying to rebuild the Metal Men. We get a little bit of acknowledgement of that neglected Red Tornado storyline. We're like, oh, hey, didn't Tio Maro create Red Tornado? Shouldn't he be like interested in the fact that he's showing up in Australia? And they like finally put that together here in week 39. Oh yeah, we should at least acknowledge that.
And I really thought they were not going to have Mercury mention that he's the only metal that's liquid at room temperature, but in the very last panel of Oolong
Thank
Island,
God.
Is that what he does?
Yeah,
like
every appearance.
Okay.
Every single one ever of all time.
Also, the reveal pose of like,
yeah,
like it's like, oh, what are you shooting a calendar? What's going on here?
I'm here and I'm real sexy.
Yeah.
Arm up, leaning against the wall, like head tilted back.
It's the cock hip that really gets me. Yeah.
It's also really funny to be like, now you're not going to try to build those metal men again, are you? Like,
you better not build those metal men, Will Magnus.
I know you've built those metal men. Any opportunity.
I know every time we take away your medication, you start building metal men, but
literally, like, God, it's like me and getting hyper fixated on a really bad TV show. It's like as soon as we take your Adderall away, you just start building those metal men again.
Speaking of which, I just want to bring up to you, Gita, when I was talking to Greg earlier this week for
oh, Greg. Sorry.
Attach your resume. Yeah, we're friends. My buddy Greg. We were talking about like the creative process, and he's like, I don't know if you're watching this, but I'm really obsessed with this show right now called The Pit. And it's like, not this again!
Yeah!
I can't escape it! Yeah. I'm trapped in the pit!
Dude, it's so good.
It's really, really, really so good. It does. I think I've mentioned this to you, Jaffe, but it feels like they watched The Good Doctor and then we're just like, we have to do better than this.
Yes.
Like, holy
the better
shit.
Doctor.
The way better doctor. Yeah, Dr. Mel is my wife. I'm married to her, actually. We just got married. I love her dearly. Thank you.
Let me know where to send
it's like, you know, it can be a really emotional show, but it's like so nice. It's like my wife and I have sarcastically been calling it woke DEIER because like Yeah, and I mean the thing is, it's like if you're in a hospital, like hospitals really are like the most multicultural places. But I'm so used to television being so white that it's like, oh yeah, there are always at least two nurses talking Tagalog to each other. Like finally a reflection of reality. But then it's also like, the Dr. Robbie will go to one of the like new doctors and be like, hey, you really got to check in with me before you just go and do a procedure. And then the next scene is one of the older doctors being like, Dr. Robbie, you really came down hard on that resident just now. It's like everybody is so nice to each other on that show. It's like it's really it is like a nice balm to have sometimes.
I got people into it by calling it like Star Trek, like the same thing that happens on Star Trek, where everyone just respectfully solves a workplace problem, like every single episode. And it's just about competent people who respect each other, talking to each other, and like getting through really heightened situations. And that's just really comforting. Yeah. My friends who work in the healthcare industry, though, have told me that the fact that all the nurses are woke is so inaccurate. Like at least one of them would be like a hardcore neocon and like the worst person you've ever met in your life.
My understanding is that nursing is a very popular profession for high school bullies.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah. Like I feel lucky that I've never encountered this in my life. But the joke that I commonly hear is that the person you hated the most in high school is a nurse now.
Yeah, mean girls become nurses and mean boys become cops. That's kind of how it works.
And then they date each other. That's how that goes.
Oh boy. We have day 6 again here, taking us to Kondak.
We are in the Gardens of Isis.
Yeah.
Just a normal place to be. I actually started getting into the mythology surrounding the actual Egyptian god Isis. And you really got to be careful when you Google that stuff. Yeah. You've got to say Isis goddess or Isis Egyptian goddess, because you can't just also say Isis Egypt. That'll lead you some different places.
Did Andy Smith do all of the pencils?
On this issue, yes. Though it was over Keith Giffen's breakdown, so
it's very strange because like Osiris's waist, aside from like one like really like far wide shot, one side of Osiris's waist is always covered with like somebody's head or an elbow, and it creates a really weird effect where you're like, can he only draw one side of a woman's waist at a time? Yeah. Like this is a really weird coincidence that keeps popping up here with this character.
Yeah, that is Isis. You got to say it at one time.
Osiris is Isis's brother, who is right now sad that he committed a murder.
And that Middle Eastern woman is named Andrea, just in case you were wondering.
Yes, that Egyptian woman is named Andrea Tomaz, and she is very, very into American nationalism.
This is such a post 9/11 book. Yeah. It's just like an American's opinions on what should happen in the Middle East come out of her mouth. As a way to soothe the savage beast of a man who's just really upset by continued attempts of America to steal all of the natural resources of countries in the Middle East and kill everybody who lives there. And she's often like, but you have to do better diplomacy. And it's like, are you Barack Obama in a skin suit? Like, it's really weird.
We got our favorite character here, your boy Sobek, the alligator man.
A normal alligator man. And if you think he's making a suspicious expression in that final panel, you are mistaken. That definitely couldn't be it.
That's just grossly. He's an alligator man. What face is he supposed to make? That's just the face he makes.
Are you racist? That's what I'm saying.
He's really casual. He's really compelling in his casualness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, you expect like thrashing around, or I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh my God, this is like this has been the most normal guy in the whole book. Yeah. And he has a fucking alligator head.
The guy I would hang out most in this whole book is Sobek.
Yeah. Honestly, he does seem the most regular out of everyone that we've seen so far.
Sobek's like, Osiris has been bummed about the fact that he used your powers to murder a dude, and he thinks maybe your powers might be cursed, and that's what caused him to murder that dude. And as if to prove his point, we see that all of the flowers that Isis created have started dying.
And we also see a boom sound effect in the same color as the boom sound effect from the Oolong Island section. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't catch that.
It's that same pale lavender. So we know there is a literal object in DC universe called a boom tube.
That's
and if
right.
these characters come from Apocalypse, they're going in the boom tube, baby. That's what that is. I love the older DC comics because it really was somebody just being like, first idea, best idea. It's called a boom tube.
It's a boom tube. You open it with a mother box. One of the characters who travels through it is a big lady named Big Barda.
And why is she called that? She's big.
She's big.
Get out of here. Yeah. It's really like there's a lot to learn, I think, just about writing from these concepts. Like you don't have to go and sit down and research like an important Latin name or whatever, or make something significant. What does it do? It's a tube that goes boom. Boom tube. Fuck out of here.
Mother box, man.
Yeah, mother box is the funniest.
Takes us back to day 5.
God, mother box. Let's just not think about the implications of that and go to day 5.
Yeah.
Day 5, you see that tiny little bug, that the literal metallic bug that Natasha has bugged the scientists with. But more importantly, Jake finally does something. It is revealed that he is not Jake, but the everyman, a man named Hannibal.
A man named Hannibal Bates, by the way.
Forgot about Bates.
Yes.
It's like if they just named him horrible racist.
Yes. His name is Saddam Hitler.
I really enjoy the audacity of this twist where it's just like, here's your fucking boyfriend's dead body on a slab, most of the leg gone, completely drained of blood, and then
a foot hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, why not?
Just for a snack. Because
why? And like soul down. So it's not even like, it's like, well, it's draining. He just,
as established in a previous issue, Will, Hannibal Bates, the everyman, can only transform into things he eats.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like, why is the foot hanging from, like, I get eating, and I get when he's like I could just eat a which when he's like only ate a fingernail clipping. It's like, that's not really something you eat.
Right.
Fingernail clipping.
You swallow that, hopefully. We've all swallowed a little bit of our fingernail sometime. There's no like chewing and processing of that. That's hard. The soul down, he's just in it for the love of the game. Like he says, I just love the taste of it. It's such good, creepy little dialogue. He's like turning into Natasha because he's ingested her hair or something and starts grabbing her by the face and is like, don't you want it? Don't you want to try it? Blah, blah, blah. Hannibal Bates. They really
his pose when he reveals, when he's like, come look in this room, and then it's a wide panel and he's just standing straight up with his fists on his hips. He looks like a dog that has brought you a dead rat.
Oh, I know exactly what this is. This is Hirohiko Araki's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure introduction of this character.
Yes. It's this, and then in the next page when he turns into Everyman, he's got like one hand up and then another one down, palm outward with just the middle finger curved up, and that is some JoJo shit right there. He's just erotically posing from moment to moment in this. I think he's a great villain because he is so like forecasted as a villain that it becomes really hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone on this super team should have immediately had their suspicions raised when a man named Hannibal Bates, who can shapeshift into anyone they know, joined their team.
Luthor just really wanted some bald white guy representation on the team, He's bankrolling the thing. He's like, there should be someone who reflects me here.
He said, hey, my culture is not a costume.
Yes!
An evil bald white guy. I really need the good representation for all the other little evil bald white children out there that don't see themselves in their superheroes.
And who should step into this big fight between Natasha and Everyman that breaks out but the man himself?
God. It's real hating billionaires hours out here.
Yeah.
And the one great rumor in American politics is that today Trump was like, fuck Elon, I gotta get you out of here.
Yeah.
Elon
After
really
he completely face planted trying and failing to buy that Wisconsin election.
Yeah, really blatantly trying to do it like he did with the national election for president too, and just didn't work because it turns out veterans especially, like normal people, don't like it when unelected racists meddle with their social security.
Yeah.
It's just something people don't like.
Yeah. To timestamp this was we were recording this on the last time a good thing happened.
No, and I watched this and it's just like, this is the example of an evil billionaire's like motivation. They are not like, I remember when people were talking about Elon Musk as if he was Tony Stark, like way back when.
He was in Iron Man 2 with Tony Stark.
Exactly. They shook hands and stuff. It was painful. But this is like, there is no way in the world that he was ever doing any of the technological advancement stuff for the good of mankind. Ever. Just as in this comic book, where the Everyman Project to give people powers is actually just about empowering Lex Luthor. Mm-hmm. Just like that is the modus operandi for all of these motherfuckers. Yeah. Bill Gates, he is not doing that charity for funzo. Mark Zuckerberg does not care about you. It is always to empower themselves. And if you want, like, they are all doing this exact playbook, and this is just prophecy.
My favorite thing about this big fight where Lex Luthor shows up to take the blast is a Keith Giffen edition where when Natasha tries to hit Everyman with her firepower, it hits him square in the chest like he's taken the death ray from the first Max Fleischer Superman cartoon. But it leaves this cutout in his chest that looks exactly like where you would place the Superman shield.
Yeah, that's a real nice touch.
Yeah.
I want to note, everybody is grabbing Natasha's face in this fight.
There's a lot of face touching.
Why are they doing that? That's just a weird place to grab another person. You can't really palm it like a basketball, you know?
Yeah.
The face is a weird oblong. Whatever. I don't know. I guess she really gets her ass kicked. It's really upsetting. It's a very good note to sort of end the issue on, though. He's like, Lex Luthor, she calls him crazy, et cetera, and he goes, wrong. And he holds her up by like the collar of her shirt and he says, I'm Superman. And it's, you know, that's just a delicious little morsel of a narrative. You know, we love it.
She goes, you're nothing but another everyman. Mm-hmm. And then it's the wrong, I'm Superman.
Right.
So he gets he gets to get the man sound in there repetitive at the end.
Oh yeah.
That is some Jeff Johns writing right there.
Absolutely. No, it is like he had the juice. He did. It's just that sometimes you start thinking you're as good as one of the greatest writers of any medium to ever live. And that's where you're wrong. I would say that you're incorrect. If you have not written Watchmen, stop thinking you can write Watchmen. That's just a lesson we should all take.
And that brings us to the end of part 1 of 2 of this big Luthor versus Steel finale. Next week is one of my favorite issues in the series. Going to be a great time.
That's a great teaser with Steel jumping with the hammer. And,
with the sprinklers going off. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty fucking sick.
It's funny that the art is so like the art is so workmanlike in the actual book. But like they really nail all the extras. So like it's like, look, I understand you're trying to churn one of these out every week. Like I get why, you know, I've read Ultimate Spider-Man. I remember like Mark Bagley never missing a deadline for like 10 straight years or something. But like the thing down at the bottom, the like teaser, I was like, oh, the teaser's great though. They the teaser looks incredible. They absolutely nailed the teaser 100% here.
Yeah, I think that's probably Chris Batista who does the art in the next issue. They probably grabbed this from that.
Yeah, no, they have mostly consistent art for the most part because Keith Giffen does all of the panel breakdowns. Mm-hmm. So it it lends like an air of consistency to everything. But you do end up with some of these issues where this is workmanlike because they just needed whoever was available to go over these outlines, essentially. It's like the Animorphs books that are not written by K.A. Applegate in a big way. Yeah. Some of them are really good. Some of them, you can tell it was written by someone who was just like, I need to give K.A. a little bit more time, essentially. Because flipping ahead to the next issue, you can really see a huge difference even in the first couple of pages of just like, this is someone who had a real sense of passion about drawing Steel, which Happy to see that. Absolutely happy to see that. I think in my reread of it this time, the Steel storyline comes to the surface way more as one that I really appreciate and like, and it does absolutely have to do with my greater understanding of like world politics and the way that money and services are intertwined in America uniquely, and the desperation amongst like normal, regular ass human beings to have some sense of stability in their lives, and that leads them to valorize people who are just trying to take advantage of them. Reading this in the age of Elon Musk, is just different. And I don't know, it makes me curious about how the Superman movie with Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor
Basically
is going to come out. It's you can't have an evil billionaire without referencing it, at least like sort of orthogonally.
We'll talk about this next time, I think, at greater length. But I think what's really cool about the Steel storyline in particular is, you get two theses of 52, the one they presented to the public and the one that the book actually is. The one that, what happened with all these mysterious 1 year laters after the time jump, which it's not really interested in. And the actual thesis of when Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are off the board, when the established heroes disappear, who steps up and what does that look like? And I think this is the most realized we see that story, really, maybe outside of the Booster Gold plot, where we get this character, Steel, who stepped up previously when Superman disappeared in Death of Superman to just to be just the solid dude who did what he could to take his place without having his powers or claiming to have his identity, but just standing for what he believed in. And we see this contrast of like the thing Lex Luthor always claimed of himself being like, if it wasn't for Superman, I would have stepped up and saved the world, being realized by someone else who stands in contrast to that. Like someone who put that money where his mouth actually was.
Did Lex Luthor, has he ever hosted like an SNL show on in the DC comic book universe?
Oh man,
I can only think of one story that touches on that. There was an issue of Vixen NYC, the webtoon where Bruce Wayne hosts SNL. I don't think we see
so
Luthor.
Funny.
But Mark Russell did do a story once about Clark Kent at the White House Correspondents' Dinner making a joke about Lex Luthor, and that's when Luthor decides he needs to run for president.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sorry, Lex Luthor does become president. I'm so sorry to say.
That I remembered. I didn't know it was because of literally what happened here in the real world.
It like feels like prophecy. Like it matches up literally 1-to-1 in so many instances. And it's just because like we all always knew what an evil billionaire looked like. Like
right.
This has been a part of our cultural imagination since the 1940s. We've always known. And yet it's happened to us. It did happen to all of us in real life.
It's like I don't know the exact quote, but somebody asked Octavia Butler, like, oh, how have you been able to like tell the future so well with your writing? And she was like, I just wrote about the present. Like all this stuff, all this stuff was already happening. I didn't have to like,
worse.
Yeah, I didn't have to imagine all these things. So it's like, Lex Luthor, bad guy. What do bad guys want to do? Be the president of the United States of America because of a slight.
Yes. I mean, imagine you're like a Jewish kid who lost his dad in a robbery at his dad's convenience store. Mm-hmm. And then he also sees like the legacy of the robber barons just hoarding all this fucking money. And, the world is entering like a global war. And you just think to yourself, how do I write about what's happening to me right now? Like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And it's Lex Luthor and like the conditions we still find ourselves in.
Yes. Thank you, Jerry Siegel.
Yeah.
That takes us to this Mr. Terrific the two-pager. Mr. Terrific having a moment right now. James Gunn's putting him in that Superman movie. He's a cool guy created by John Ostrander, the GOAT, for his Spectre run. A legacy hero to a crusty old JSA guy from the 40s. What do you know about Mr. Terrific?
I cannot stress this enough. I could not know less about.
Yeah.
I know what I know about Mr. Terrific was contained within the like 3 half pages at the end of this issue.
Yeah.
I forgot he was even in the Superman movie. For some reason, I'm having a hard time keeping track of all of the characters in the Superman movie.
There's not that many.
Oh God, listen, it's so like in the trailer, just seeing like Hawkman flying around, and I'm like, what's gonna happen here?
There's 4 superheroes. It's not that much. It's like half a Justice League.
Justice League. Come on, Will. You can keep them straight. It's exactly like when people try to tell me about a new streaming service, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm gonna just keep searching for name of movie mega video.
It's not that hard to get your head around Metamorpho. Metamorpho is a normal guy.
It could not be less of a normal guy. That's a big part of his story is that he's not a normal guy and would like to be.
The entire point of Metamorpho is that he's not a normal guy.
Mr. Terrific, though, I think the big thing about Mr. Terrific is that in 2008, the trends of fashion and popular culture were such that wearing an all-leather outfit with a T-shaped mask and a leather jacket that says fair play down the side was not cool. But now in this era, this is the hardest outfit I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yes!
He's got that shit on. It looks so good.
God, it's so good.
Man.
Very well designed costume. Unfortunately, this whole story is illustrated by a guy who once put out an art book called My Struggle, and whose signature on all of his art pieces is very clearly a stylized swastika.
Why did they put him on the fair play and Mr. Terrific one? Come on, was that just a punishment? It's like, we heard you doing too many racist things, so now you have to draw a black guy.
Ethan Van Sciver was very, very close with Jeff Johns. They were best friends for a very long time. They worked on Green Lantern together for like 8 goddamn years.
God, that's heartbreaking. That's absolutely heartbreaking to learn. I get it because he is a good artist, right? I was listening to, for some reason I woke up.
Yeah.
It's because I'm writing a novel about like experiences of the early internet. And I woke up and I was like, what's a Tumblr phenomenon I only remember like once every 5 to 10 years? Mars Argo and Titanic Sinclair. And Mars Argo is like an indie artist that was really popular on with Tumblr girls that are now obsessed with Lana Del Rey. Mm-hmm. And it turned out she was in like an abusive relationship with her producer, this guy Titanic Sinclair. And what's so frustrating about Titanic Sinclair is that he's legitimately a very gifted artist.
Yeah.
Every time I listen to those songs or hear like on shuffle one of his solo songs, I'm just like, it really fucking sucks that you're an evil human being. And also you really can shred. You really can. But
I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't talk about Neil Gaiman right now. I can't do it. I can't.
We're not going to do it. But like, it's true.
This is another episode where we talk about how we can't talk about that.
Just know, like, being a good artist does not make you a good person. There's so many examples of that, right? Like,
it doesn't make you a bad person, but it doesn't make you a good person either. They're independent things.
The episode I did of I Hate Bill Maher, George Carlin was guesting on, and we had to talk about this, Will, about the 7 things you can't say on television. One of the greatest bits just of all time that any comedian's ever done. George Carlin is so cynical and so upsetting to watch when you watch him talk about politics. It's just sort of like you learn very easily. It's easy to learn to kill your heroes in that moment. Mm-hmm. You can be an electrifying performer and just be a shitty guy. That happens all the time.
Yeah. Like, I don't think Prince was a joy to be around, No,
it's, probably not.
Yeah. I think I think a documentary got scuttled. He was such a not a joy to be around.
I heard that.
Yeah, his estate was not happy with the idea of saying Prince was not the most perfect man that ever lived, right? But holy shit, Purple Rain is an album. That is a whole album. And that movie is terrific. Watch that movie every weekend for a month in college. It was a really good decision. But just don't. It's not even don't have heroes. Just remember that you can put a lot into your art, but that does not mean the art and the artist are the same thing.
The most upsetting person I ever worked with, who I won't name, used to bring up Purple Rain all the time, to the point that we would use it as a verb, as like the thing that would prove that it was worth putting up with us because we would produce this thing. Like, we're going to Purple Rain on him.
I'm gonna start start saying that when I know I'm being really annoying. There's an invoice I owe that I've been owed. Like I've had to supposed to write it for like 6 months at this point, and I never have because the invoicing system they use is really fucking annoying. And I just have to sign up for a thing, and then I have to be approved by another thing. So I'm just not doing it because it's like $400. I could use it, but I will also be able to use that $400 in the next 3 months or so when it takes for me to finally write this invoice. And I know they're so irritated with me, but I did good work for them, so that's why they're still coming around.
So you've already purple rained on them.
I already purple rained on them.
Pre-purple rained.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to enter like a 1099 situation and be like, I know you're gonna hate me.
Did you have a favorite scene this issue?
Me, Will, me.
Both of you.
Oh, both of me. Oh,
the y'all. Did y'all have a favorite scene this issue?
Okay, yeah. When Dr. Time got horny at the idea that there was a universe of like
we didn't talk about that.
There was a universe, a micro universe of big
of
titty,
naked
big
Amazons
who loved him. Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, really? Let me see.
Yes. It's really, really, really funny. It's like why this like a workplace comedy of this would work so fucking well. The Ulan Island, The Office version would be so amazing.
That scene reminded me of so many comics, probably like 10, 15 years ago that would come out where all the critics would be like, it's so funny, it's so good. And then they would get canceled after like 10 issues because it's like, oh, people don't buy funny superhero comic books.
Yeah.
But like that one scene, I was like, yeah, this is great. Like you get a collection of like C-tier freak mad scientists and put them all together. One of them, like Dr. Time, clock for a head. It's spelled T-Y-M-E, like inexplicably. Dr. Time, a little bit like the concept, a little bit like the herb. But why would they do that? And then also apparently he is horny, you know? He's one of the only comic book characters who is like openly, brazenly horny like that.
I think it is worth pointing out that A, the Oolong Island story is Grant Morrison's baby, and B, Dr. Time is historically a Doom Patrol villain. This is Morrison doing Doom Patrol again.
Yeah. And in Doom Patrol, they were allowed to be horny. They were like, you all have mental illness. Mentally ill people are horny. So go for it. Just go for it.
The old heroes don't do that conversation where where like villains are allowed to perform cunnilingus and Harley Quinn, but heroes aren't.
I can't think of anything more heroic than performing cunnilingus. I'm sorry for being too horny for you, Alex, but just had to get that out there.
I get it. I opened that door. That's on me. Not to bring up a current comic book or the latest DC news, but something that happened recently in comics is for April Fool's Day, DC put out
hardcore pornography.
I'm not wrong. You're like actually really close.
Not 100% off.
I just remember what the story is about. Well, you're not going to believe this.
They put out a fart comic about Harley Quinn. And it's Harley Quinn. It is a rub and smell comic where the pages are scented so you could smell the farts. It is
just hardcore fart fetish comic.
That's
humor.
the thing, Gita. I read it. It's not. It's not just a funny comic. It's a goofy, silly fart joke of a comic. The cover was a little bit too hardcore. There was an editorial blurb about how this one was for the freaks that took it out of context, and it's like it is a puerile comic that hit the internet as if it was fart fetish porn.
It's called Silent But Deadly.
It's called the Harley Quinn Fartacular, Silent But Deadly.
That's like, for April Fools, we put out an issue that's covered in disgusting smelling toe jam from a woman's enormous feet. And it's like, well, what do you think the internet is going to do with this, man? Like,
it is a little naive.
It stars Poison Ivy. I'm sure no one will be weird about her in this context.
Or Harley Quinn for that matter.
Like those are the two I'd keep away from any sort of like feet. Smell. Don't ever make them gigantic.
No, never once. Armpits, no deal. Can't do that.
There's a very self-aware joke at the end of season 1 of the Harley Quinn show where Poison Ivy becomes a giant and she's holding Harley Quinn in her hand and saying, "Hey, Would it be crazy if I ate you right now?
Oh, for God's sake.
Do they ever get stuck in mud and have to struggle in mud?
I have to think about that.
That was like one of the ones
Very
in the,
Totally Spies.
the high school like library where me and my friends like tried to freak each other out. There was like a porn fetish website called like Stuck Women or Women in Mud or something, and it's like totally completely clothed, just women struggling with cars while stuck in the mud, and like that's it, like 5-minute clips of them like trying to get their cars out of the mud, and it's just like, this is just like women being frustrated like doing it for you.
Man.
Yeah, you'll never know. People can really create a paraphilia out of fucking anything.
I really liked the Luthor reveal scene at the end. I think that was my favorite leading up to our issue next week. Gita, did you have a favorite scene?
The Luthor reveal scene, but I think actually it's this like when we finally get the payoff on the character named Hannibal Bates.
Yeah.
That's really great stuff.
We kind of skipped over it. The whole thing of this issue is that the reason the scientist detonated his lab and has been trying to like scuttle his whole life's work to hide all this is that he has been lying to Lex Luthor this entire series about the fact that the Everyman Project isn't compatible with his DNA.
Yeah.
The payoff here is Luthor found out that that was all some guy trying to obfuscate that from him, and he was able to finally subject himself to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know he was also. I didn't get that Dennis was Dennis. I didn't get that my friend Dennis, rest in peace, was also lying to Lex Luthor about.
Yeah, he had been
working.
lying to Luthor this whole time that he was incompatible with the Everyman Project, and that's why he had to die.
A hero.
Yeah,
a true hero.
Yeah, and in his death, he gave Natasha distressed jeans.
Yes.
It's like a thermonuclear blast, and then like just like the upper thighs of her pants are they're just like
weird place.
Holes.
I know it's a weird place for her pants to burn through symmetrically. Whatever. We also on this show have the concept of the blackboard. You've listened to the show, so you know about that. But I do think I know what you would put up on the blackboard, and it is the Sea Beast, which is also the thing that I would like to put up on the blackboard. What is the deal with the Sea Beast? Why have we never seen the Sea Beast again? Can we come up with some lore for the Sea Beast right now? Because that creature is never returning. I think it's a noble soul. And like they really wanted to be part of Ralph Dibny's healing journey. And like it's all just a front. Like, you know, it's really about learning to let go when you meet the Sea Beast, and you have to you only have to fight it if you're not willing to give something up. It's like a Buddhist concept. That's my read on the Sea Beast.
You know what the Sea Beast reminds me of? Did you see the first Jason Momoa Aquaman movie?
I have not. No.
There is this moment in that movie where Aquaman has to go to like these forbidden lost depths to retrieve the like trident of the gods or whatever. And in order to do that, he has this meeting with this ancient depth dwelling monster called the Carathan, who is voiced by Julie Andrews, who showed up to be the monster in this movie. Because it's like, you know, the ancient god and the eldritch ancient god in these movies is never a woman. Who would we get to do it? And Julie Andrews turned down Mary Poppins Returns so she could be an Aquaman instead.
Her mind.
And Aquaman made $1 billion. So,
well, I guess she was fucking right. Her instincts were correct.
Now I'm picturing her like a Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug in the her in like a green unitard slithering around on the floor, sticking her tongue out. And you're like, that's not really this thing's vibe, Julie. You don't. Yeah. That's not really what it does.
Wouldn't you rather do that than fucking be Mary Poppins again? Like a character that she popularized, but also was completely at odds with the rest of her career and probably resents just a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
I would so much rather put on a mocap soup and fucking roll around. That sounds great.
I'm looking at a great Vulture article right now about it at the time by Nate Jones, headlined, "I'm obsessed with Julie Andrews voicing a racist sea monster in Aquaman." She does literally.
I'm obsessed too.
Yeah. She calls Aquaman a mongrel. It's a lot.
So good. That's so good.
I want to put on another storyline this made me think of, which was written a few years before this. DC did a big Joker story in 2000 called Joker: The Last Laugh, where the idea was that the Joker was diagnosed with brain cancer. So he's like, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to take the whole world with me. So he Jokerized all of the villains in the world to like be part of his chaotic Joker army. And some parts of it are cool. Some parts of it aren't. Some parts of it work. Some parts of it don't. But the punchline at the end is that he never actually had cancer. They made a mistake. And rather than tell him they made a mistake, they're like, it's the Joker. Let him think he's dying.
When those kinds of like real world things get put into comic, but like you saying that, all I can think about is Dr. Doom weeping over the ruins of
over
the
9/11. Yes,
yeah, just kind of the thing where it's like the Joker goes crazier than ever because he has brain cancer, and it's like, well, is this not a man who is at any given moment likely to die, given his like pursuit? Like a cop could just shoot him and he would die. Like he's like, oh, I've never been confronted with my mortality before. It's like, buddy, you have a poison gas you use like every Tuesday. Don't act like.
I read those Golden Age Batman comics. You died 14 times in those. I saw one where Robin kicked you off a lighthouse and you were just back next week. Batman: A Death of the Family ends with the Joker dying in a helicopter explosion, and then he's just back. People ask all the time, why didn't Batman kill the Joker after Death of the Family? Because he fucking died.
Just the specificity of cancer.
Yeah.
I just like that is something that touches so many different people that are real in the real world, and it's like painful and really upsetting. But why would the Joker get cancer? I'm like crying, laughing at this concept. It's like the Joker got cancer, that regular human disease we all know.
Yes.
And then the doctors just lied to him.
You can't stop me this time, Batman. I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
It's just Make-A-Wish killing Batman.
I'm going to meet John Cena next week, Batman.
I guess give him like a made-up super disease, or like he has some kind of degenerative illness from going in a vat of poison that bleached his skin white and gave him mental illness. Like, why does he need cancer on top of everything else he has going on?
Oh, they gave the Joker cancer.
Okay, I love comic books.
Batman, come on, take it easy on Killer Croc. He has HIV/AIDS. We need to be empathetic in this time of in this very difficult time for him. It's
you really shouldn't be pursuing the Mad Hatter like that, because he just was diagnosed with diabetes. It's been a really long journey for him for understanding why he's so tired and has to urinate all the time and is in a deadly way fixated on the story of Alice in Wonderland. But it turns out that was all from the diabetes. So
it's like Batman just being like, well, look, man, it's not fun to catch the Riddler anymore. He's got lupus. He can't really move around very well. I feel bad now catching him.
Oh, man.
Feel bad now catching him. Riddle me this. I have the one disease, health, never diagnosis.
Oh, man. Okay.
Okay,
let's ask the questions, shall we?
We got some mailbag stuff.
We got some stuff in the mailbag. We got some listeners who want to pick our brains. If you would like to ask Gita or me or our illustrious guests any questions as we get them on the show, you could do that by writing into 52mailbag@gmail.com. This first one comes from Spencer, who says, I've always been a comics reader, but mostly manga, graphic novels, and comic scenes. I've only ever dabbled in Cape comics. There are two big hurdles for me that I don't come across in other comics media. One is the 100 years of continuity and interconnectedness of the universe. The other is superheroes themselves. There's no real-life equivalent. What is a superhero? Is Goku a superhero? Is Sailor Moon? Naruto? Why are there hundreds of these characters volunteering to punch crime? Is there something about superheroes that lend themselves to interconnectedness, long-running soap opera storytelling? Do comics about superheroes make more sense than books or TV shows or other mediums? Why are superheroes in giant, long-running continuities of interconnected stories, but other subgenres are not? Spencer, it's a lot of questions, Spencer.
I think it's safe to say there are real life superheroes, and they're known as the troops. Thank you very much.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
No, I think that this really is just like one of those questions that's answered by the hilarious quirks of the history of comic book publishing.
Exactly.
Like, superheroes were not always the biggest genre. It's something that emerged like post World War II.
Mhm.
And it really, in an era where comic books themselves were just more popular forms of pulp entertainment. The sort of westerns and romance and horror comics that used to run alongside these things were kind of like replaced by mass media television and movies that could depict the same things. It's just that up until 2000 and gosh, when was it when Marvel bought DC? Like 2010 or so?
Did
when
you
the
say
Iron
when
Man,
Marvel bought DC? That hasn't happened yet.
I'm sorry, when Disney bought
Disney
Marvel.
bought Marvel in 2009.
Okay, so then in 2010 or so.
Was that soon?
Yeah. It was 1 year after Iron Man.
Okay, I remember. I used to drive by the Marvel building on Santa Monica like all the time. And then when it was just gone, I was like, well, end of an era. Boy, I bet Disney's gonna fuck this one up. And you know what? I was 100% correct.
We're 100% right. Not in the way that you thought at the time, but you were right. Yeah. No, it was. You watched that first Iron Man. It was first the Spider-Man movie that proved that you could make a movie about a guy in a suit and not have it totally flop. There were so many attempts up until that point, and some of those movies are good, but they were not financial successes, which is all that Hollywood really cares about.
I mean, Superman and 1989 Batman were huge financial successes, but different landscape.
Different landscape, different priorities for film goers also at that time. Superman is a little bit different, but there was this prevailing attitude in my childhood that Batman and Superman were kind of just big flops because they were not flops, they were big outliers because they were such iconic and well-known characters that there's no way, and obviously that people will see it because they know what it is, and there's no way you could get a movie about Spider-Man or Iron Man or Doctor Strange or anything off the ground. And then Iron Man really changed the game. And then suddenly people understood the iconography of these characters wearing these specific suits and doing these specific actions can lend themselves very easily to the incredibly commercialized nature of Hollywood filmmaking.
I would like to speak to one point that Spencer asked about what is a superhero. And they asked, is Goku a superhero? The last movie Akira Toriyama made is about, yes, Goku is a superhero. All of these guys
Sailor
are superheroes.
Moon a superhero?
Yes, of course Sailor Moon is a superhero.
She was very much self-consciously conceived by Takeuchi as a girl superhero. She used to, she had a little mask, right? Sailor V wore a mask like Robin. The idea was that in the American way, she was a girl, a regular teenage girl during the day, and then at night she was a superhero with an alternate ego. So yes, these things are always being reinterpreted by other comic books. It's just that in America, they really latched on to this one genre, and it just children read it and had their minds poisoned forever and then decided to make comics themselves.
And I would just like to reiterate once again that the real superheroes are the troops.
Yes.
Get off my fucking podcast.
I like to I used to hate when continuity superhero continuity would get it would really bother me that it didn't that nothing really mattered. And so I eventually had to adopt a mindset of DC and Marvel characters are essentially literary equivalents of jazz standards, where it's it's not really about the character, it's about what the artist is doing with it. And I think that's an easier way to get into comic books, is to
Absolutely.
try a few different writers and their big runs and then kind of build out from there.
I mean, I think our ongoing frustration with Dan DiDio is that after I got my husband really into Radiohead, we started listening to Miles Davis all the time. And I've heard 1,000 different versions of Pork Pie Hat, Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. And there are some versions that I like and some versions that I don't like. And I'm sure there's so many jazz fans that like the versions that I don't like of that same song. And Dan DiDio, it's he listened to a version of Goodbye Pork Pie Hat and he decided that that was his favorite, and it's my least favorite of all time. And I think everyone who likes that version of it is absolutely 100% wrong. That's what you see in the characters as they go back and forth between different creatives, is everyone's doing their own rendition of the same character. And amplifying, turning the dials up and down on different aspects of it.
Yeah, especially Grant Morrison really treats superheroes that way.
Yeah, absolutely. He will do like a million different versions of the same character in the same book, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and bring back Batmite.
Yeah, I do like it when Batman came back. That made me really happy to see him.
Really bizarre to not know what that was, and it just shows up in a book I had started buying. I was like, oh, okay. I don't think I can go through this whole run. I think I'm missing too much knowledge to understand what's going on here.
You just need to be doing more hallucinogens. Then you'll be on the same level.
Thank you so much for joining us. Will, I know people can check you out on your Bill Maher Hate podcast.
Yeah.
Is that the only avenue through which you want people to know you, or do you have a richer life?
No, I'm also a stand-up comedian, which is slowly getting just like absolutely consumed by hosting this fucking podcast. Yeah, it's just old man Weldon on everything. I finally gave in and just paid DistroKid the money I owed them. I contend that they jacked up the price of hosting my album without telling me. They say they did tell me. They say they did give me notice. But if my album is back up on Spotify, it was not for, without lie, a year and a half as I fought with them over email. And then I just gave up and I was like, why don't I just pay them $40?
Yes, it's just $40.
Yeah, I probably would have been able to make at least 50 off of the streams by now. So perhaps this was an errant judgment on my part. And then it's just like, I don't know, old man Weldon on Blue Sky, but that's pretty inessential.
yeah, that's just social media. Who really fucking cares about that shit? I don't anymore. But Will, I'm so glad we had you on. This was such a fun time. I'm so glad I got to usher another person through the baffling experience of reading this book and just the mountains of DC history that are it's so funny to think about. You should definitely listen to I Hate Bill Maher. I listen to it in the shower. I like save up a bunch of episodes to listen to in the shower, like on loop, and it's just starting my day with a potent burst of just hating someone a lot. It's really fun.
I have a new podcast that I'd like to talk about.
Yes, please.
I have a show that I just started called DC Action News. It's an under 10-minute weekly podcast where I painstakingly go through every new release from DC Comics and report on them as if I were like a news desk within the DC universe itself. So in a world where the entire universe is imperiled 14 times a week, every week, what would putting on the news look like? And so far, I'm very happy with the response it's gotten. It's some of the most work I've ever put into a show, but I'm so proud of it. And it takes almost no time to listen to. Just check out whatever the latest episode is. DC Action News.
I complain constantly about how much work my podcast is because I have to do a lot of like clip pulling. Yours sounds like the literal death of me.
Yeah. I'm the only reason I'm doing it is because I've literally been dreaming about this exact premise for 25 years. So if I don't do it, I'll die.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe way fewer books come out every week than I
would say about 12 books come out from DC every week on average.
I have never imagined a person reading as many comic books as you must read.
We close every episode of this show by saying never stop reading comics.
He really never stops.
Literally never stop.
Literally like a literal description. This is a brief respite from him reading comics. And
it really
talking
is.
about comics.
Yeah, I'm going back to Andy Diggle's The Losers right after this. Geeta, do you have anything you want to talk about at the end of this here show that we're at right now?
There's just one last thing I want to check on with you, Daffy.
Okay. You're catching me a little off guard, but
I just wanted to make sure, are you ready?
I just said I'm ready for it.
Awkward to watch the hosts fight. Oh, jeez. I feel like I'm on Doughboys.
"52 Pickup" is an Aftermath production created by Geeta Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Aaron. Hosting for 52 Pickup is provided by Insert Credit. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.